Hello and welcome. This is April with inkycreationswithapril.com. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that notification bell. It helps me out a ton and I appreciate it. We're going to make this beautiful snowflake card today using some products from Sweet N Sassy Stamps. Gonna start with this Snowstorm Stencil. Gonna use a sentiment from the Winter Hug set, and then I'll show you a little bit later. Gonna use the dies from the Sparkle Snowflake Die Set. So let's get started by creating our background. I grabbed a waffle flower mat here. This just helps to hold my Distress Heavy Stock in white in place while I ink blend. I have my three go-to blues for the winter season from the Distress Oxide line, and that is the Tumbled Glass, Salvaged Patina, and the Peacock feathers. I have a dry microfiber cloth here to clean my brushes. I'm just making sure they're super clean, and I don't have a problem with them getting gunky. I know some people do. I just try to make sure they're really clean when I am finished with them and before I put them away. I could have used an ink blending tool here with a foam pad. That would have probably made this whole process a little easier, but my blending brushes were handy and quicker to grab. I do have two separate blending brushes here. I have a Hero Arts, that's the black one, and this one here is from Tailored Expressions. I got a little carried away and broke my darker blue blending brush from Tailored Expressions, so I always have extras. Grab the one from Hero Arts, and it is an awesome brush as well. So I just mix and match if I need to. And the little piece of tape that I have around the handle is to remind me that these are only for Distress Oxides. You don't want to mix the two. Go from dye ink to Distress Oxide, because then you could get your dye ink pads really gunky from the Distress Oxides. So as I finish blending here, I grabbed some Post-it tape. This is just to keep my fingerprints out of the blended area that I've already done, because fingerprints are really hard to blend away. So this just helps me hold it in place without having to redo a panel or get super creative with the way I put my card together. You can usually save a panel by just placing a sentiment or an embellishment over an area that you've messed up. So I just blend back and forth, lightest to darkest, till I have the depth of color I want, and until the blend lines between the colors are something I am happy with. Then I'm going to clean up. All I have to do is wipe off this waffle flower mat. I just use a baby wipe for it, and this mat sits right next to my desk, so whenever I need it, I have it. And yes, it's stained a little bit with pink, but that doesn't bother me at all. So gonna set this aside, and then next we are going to take our panel, and I'm going to die cut this using the diagonal stitch rectangle dies from Pinkfresh Studio. This is my favorite die to cut with. I love the cute little detail it leaves on my background panel. So I just took that over, ran it through my Gemini Junior. Gonna stick that back right next to me so I can grab it for my next card, I'm sure. Gonna set that panel, let it dry just for a few. So we're gonna get ready to do our stenciling, and we're gonna use that Snowstorm stencil from Sweet N Sassy Stamps. And since I'm filming, I'm using my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station to do my stenciling with. And we're gonna add some Glitz glitter gel in white from Gina with a palette knife. I don't like to tape my stencils down. I find it easier just to use some sort of magnet system. This is what I do when I'm filming, because I film on a non-magnetic surface, that black mat. When I am just working and creating, I have a true white mat from Glassboard Studios. It is magnetized, so I just can work right on that surface, and it wipes up like a dream because it's glass. But this Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station cleans up just as well, and it can use magnets, so totally makes me happy. So I am just taking my palette knife and make sure to push gently the glitter gel down into your open spaces. Don't press too hard. I get a little carried away down at the bottom. You'll see that here in a minute, but I'm just gently pressing, trying to pull off that extra glitter gel as I don't use it. And anything extra I have, Sorry, right here is where I get a little heavy-handed. We'll see that in a minute. But any extra I have, I do not put back in my container, especially with the Stress Oxides or any water reactive ink. It will pick up that color and contaminate your container of white glitter gel. So I just put some press and seal in there, got all the air out I could, put the lid on nice and tight, and it's ready for next time. I'm just going to clean up. I do take my stencil, put it in a little bit of soapy water just to really get that glitter gel off, wipe everything else down with a baby wipe, and put it away. So next we're going to stamp our sentiment, and that cute little sentiment from the Winter Hugs set. It says, "It's never cold when you're around." How cute is that? So I'm going to grab this sentiment and we're just going to stamp this on some white cardstock. I'm going to prep this with an anti-static powder tool and going to stamp it in some Versamark ink. Always stamp it twice. I'm going to stamp it twice. I use my hand. You probably should use a microfiber cloth, but I clean it off in between. So stamp it once, clean it off, stamp it again, so that you end up with a nice embossed impression when you're done. Otherwise, sometimes that Versamark will, that powder, it won't leave Versamark where that powder is always, and you end up with a kind of a splotchy sentiment, and we don't want that. So stamp it twice to make it nice. Clean in between. Gonna put my sentiment away so I don't lose it, because I have lost sentiments before and spent hours looking for them because they stuck to something else. Put that in my stamp pocket and put that aside. This set does have really cute little dies that go with the images as well. I'm going to heat this up with my heat tool. I just use some silver embossing powder on it, and I do heat from the front and the back. I do my best to try to keep that paper from warping as much as I can. And I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to grab the Pinkfresh Studio Fancy Label Die frames. These little label frames are perfect for like your multi-line sentiments or your wider sentiments. They're just give you a nice little finish to a sentiment. So I'm going to take my mini blossom. If you watched a previous video of mine, you know it always sits on my desk. It works perfect for sentiments and little dies, and especially anything that's not too intricate, although it cuts pretty good. Except I think I might need to replace my bottom plate there. It's getting pretty worn. So I'm going to use some Easy C tape just to hold this in place, because I do not want that frame moving and have to redo that sentiment. Run it through my little mini blossom. Sorry. And then I also have a little scratch piece of vellum up there in the corner, and I'm going to grab the next largest frame and cut it with the vellum with this next largest frame, so I can layer these up. The vellum gives a nice little edge to our sentiment. And then I'm going to grab the Sparkle Snowflake die set that I told you about from Sweet N Sassy Stamps. This is a trio of 3 little snowflakes. They're all different. They are very intricate, so I chose to run these through my Gemini Junior. I'm running it through and going to cut it from some white glitter cardstock. And glitter cardstock can be a little finicky sometimes to get a really nice die cut from, and especially when it's really intricate. So I just wanted something that I would provide a lot more pressure to get these snowflakes cut perfectly. This glitter cardstock is from Simon Says Stamp. It is a 6x6 assorted pack that I got during Stamptember. And this white is very white. Probably the whitest glitter cardstock I've ever seen. It has a little hint of blue to it and works perfect for snowflakes. I'm just taking my craft pick and I'm going to pick out all those little bits and pieces for these snowflakes. They are very intricate, but wow, they are definitely worth going to all this trouble for. These are also super cute, cut out of vellum and used over a background. cut them out of some light blue cardstock. Just beautiful little snowflakes. So next, let's layer up our sentiment. I'm just going to layer this on the vellum there, and you'll see it just creates a perfect little border for our cute little sentiment. Going to give that just a minute to set up, and I am going to grab the background panel, and we are going to start trying to put this card together. So we have our background panel, and it has a little bit of overhang from that Glitz glitter gel. So now that it's dry, it could have dried just a little bit longer, but I'm just taking a sanding block and sanding off the extra of that gel that is hanging over, and gonna scoop that out of my way. And then I do wipe my surface down really quick because it kind of got everywhere when you're taking that sanding block to it, but it cleans up those edges nicely. So we're getting all of our pieces together. One of our last pieces is I just have some silver thread that was in my stash, and I'm getting a good amount of it, wrapping it around my hands, and then just gonna clip that off. And we're gonna put this in no sensical order behind our sentiment to just add a little bit more shine to this card. I love this technique. I don't think about using it. I've seen it a lot lately, and I'm like, I've got to do that. So I'm just grabbing some foam squares. I have foam squares from many companies, the size I needed. I had from Simon Says Stamp. So I'm putting some of those on there. Going to take off the little release papers. I'm going to take that thread and just kind of use those foam squares to kind of hold it in place. I'm manipulating some of that thread to make sure I have it on all the areas that I want it to show. You can't go wrong here. So I'm just pulling and tucking and pressing, making sure it is the way I want it to look. And then just going to stick it right down here on the bottom of my card, covered up that messy snowflake I made. No one will ever know it was there. So I'm going to take the smaller foam squares this time, the minis, and I'm putting them right in the middle of my snowflakes. Don't worry, you can see the foam. We're going to put a cute little pearl over it so you won't see it in the end. So I'm just taking my little trio of snowflakes and tucking them around. I pop two of them up, and the other one I'm going to put directly on the background panel with a little bit of glue, and I kind of tuck it in there, and oh, just need to trim off a little bit. So I just trim off one of those little edges of the snowflake, and I'm able to tuck that right in there just the way I want it. And I'm going to use some reverse tweezers here just to hold it in place while that glue sets up a little bit. Glitter paper can be a little difficult sometimes to stick, so the force of the reverse tweezers just helps hold it in place while it starts to dry. I'm going to pop this up just on a top folding A2 panel. So I just use foam tape with some large score tape. I pre-make all of these. It's a solid piece of foam tape to pop it up, so nothing's going to get bent or anything like that in the mail. So I have everything in place. I have a little string sticking up there. I cut off that little thread, and then the last thing I need to do is I'm going to grab some pearls from Little Things by Lucy. I just put them in a little embellishment tray there. Grab me a pickup stick or an embellishment wand, or whatever you want to call it, and I pick 3 of these little pearls that are all the same size to put in the center of my 3 little snowflakes, and I did not put any more. It's hard for me. I wanted to, but I did not put any more pearls anywhere else because I wanted those snowflakes up above to shine on their own. So I'm just going to stick those in place and use a little bit of extra glue because there's holes in the centers of a couple of these snowflakes, so I want to make sure that those pearls stay in place. Make sure I put my extra back before I accidentally spill those all over my work surface. And this is my card. I hope you enjoyed it. I love a good wintry card. It makes me want to go get a mug of cocoa and enjoy a Christmas movie. I sure appreciate you stopping by. I hope you go check out these products from Sweet N Sassy Stamps, and especially this wonderful little stencil. We'll see you next time. Bye.